Hello, hello, hi Heather. Hi Donna. Hi Caroline. Just gonna give it a few minutes to load. And let me just make sure I can see comments. So welcome everyone to our Papercrafters Workshop Learning Live at 8. Hi Linda. Oh, glad you got your fluffy stuff. Hi Wendy. So good evening everyone and welcome to Learning Live at 8. I am Darlene and I'm here today with more fluffy stuff. This is our last segment of the month. We're going to start with something new next week. And for those of you that are joining for the first time, seeing our Learning Live and you don't know what fluffy stuff is, this is fluffy stuff. And just like its name, it produces nice white fluffy stuff that you can use for Santa's beard, a gnome beard, on, winter trees as snow. And this is our 4th week of showing you different techniques and tips on how to use fluffy stuff different from what its intentions are. So I will continue on using fluffy stuff and I will show you how I like to use it. And plus I'll add in some recap of the other 3 weeks that we had fluffy stuff. And I'll show you. Nope, Margaret, you didn't miss anything. I just started. Hello, Carmen. So let's start off. So this is fluffy stuff. I will be using it tonight. I have some aluminum foil here, my tweezers and everything, and of course our heat gun. So first things I want to show is ways that I use fluffy stuff. And I know Sherry and Alexis and Chris have shown you a lot of ways to use it. But one of my favorite ways to use it is using it with die cut pieces. So if some of you have joined our crop before, you remember our little s'mores. So let me show you how I like to do fluffy stuff on this s'mores. With fluffy stuff, the nice thing about it, it's really liquidy. So what I will do here is just trace this inner part. Oops, I think I used a lot over the weekend. And I'm just gonna put it just around in this white spot. The more you put, the longer it will take to heat up. So what I do is I'll show you in a second, is when you heat it up, normally the top part of it you'll see starting to fluff up. But usually in the inside, it's still very wet. So I like to leave it overnight before I touch it, just so it will set and harden. Because the worst thing is that you puff it all up and then you put your hand over it and more liquid comes out of it because the inside is not wet. Hello for everyone joining me. So here is my little s'mores guy from Lawn Fawn. And the first thing I want to show is using that white fluffy stuff for the marshmallow part. And let me just warm up my heat gun. Sorry for the noise. I just need to warm it up so we can heat it up. Hello. Hi, Sherry. So let me heat up our little s'mores guy. Oops. The heat gun is a little bit loud. I'm just going to use my tweezers because I have him on high heat. And if you can see, it's starting to bubble up. So let me see if I can put it closer to the camera while I heat it up. So I'm going to stand. So as you can see, the fluffy stuff does raise a little bit. So I like to sometimes go a little bit longer just so it turns a little brown and black, because then that's the real s'mores look, right? So I'm just gonna heat up just a little bit. And one thing is that once you see it raise, just don't push your hand in it because it's still very hot and the inside is sometimes still wet. So I like to leave it. So what I did to show you this, so here is the one I just did. This is the one I did last night. So he's dried now and you can push down on it. So you can tell that that fluff, let me just let it focus, is very raised, and no matter how much you push it down, it doesn't flatten. So you get that nice texture. So he is still a little bit wet. It's hard to see, but you still see a little bit wet. So I'll let him dry a little bit, but he's gonna go in here. And this will be a card. Another way I like to use fluffy stuff, well, let's just, you know what? Let's continue making these die cuts. So here is the little cup from Lawn Fawn. Same thing, it's a die cut piece, but what a great way to add fluffy stuff on this little whipped cream. So easy ways to add texture to your cards, even though this is a lot of paper piecing, is adding these little nice textures to it. And what I like about fluffy stuff is that when you hold in your hands and when it's dried and puffy, you just want to keep touching it because it's so soft. I don't know how to describe the softness because it's not silk, it's not hard. Like if you use paste, you feel that grit to it. But when you touch this fluffy stuff, it's like cotton balls. It's like really, really soft. So I like just rubbing my hands over it. Sounds crazy, but it's quite fun. So let me show you this teacup and show you how a little bit of this fluffy stuff puts a whole new look to this card. Well, this piece. And the nice thing is that once you have this heated up, your heat gun, it actually heats really quickly. So now that my heat gun is a little bit hot, it puffs up quickly. Just making sure I don't burn the paper. And look at that little texture to that the whipped cream. It's hard to see, my lighting's really bad here. But it just gives it a different look and a texture. So here is the wet one and this is the one I did. And so you can tell that adding, these are my 2 cups, and I made a thank you card very quickly. And it just has that raised look and it gives your card a little bit of something. So I'm gonna put this aside while it dries. Because as I said, it's still wet in the middle. I will finish this one in a second because I wanted to add a second piece to here. But as we continue on, but what if you don't like whipped cream and you like the little marshmallows? You can do the same thing. So this marshmallow set was from one of the Lawn Fawn S'mores set. It's their camping set. I can't remember the name right now. But adding that texture. So I'm thinking like all these can be thank you cards, and I'm thinking of like thank you cards for the teachers or even our mailmen, our delivery people. And it's so easy to whip up. And this just gives it a little bit of dimension. So here, let me do this quickly and I'll show you an overall look after. And let me put this on a lower speed so you can hear me. So what I did with this one in my marshmallow, I'll show you, I actually let it turn a little bit brownish black to have that like melted burn look when you do s'mores over the campfire. So you achieve that look by just leaving it a little bit longer on your fluffy stuff. And it just gives you that different look. there. It's coming. So it starts changing color. So if you leave it too long, it will no longer be white. It starts turning a brownish color, which is great if you're doing the s'mores look. And I'll show you one where I left it really, really long. And you know how you get that burnt look or that brown and black look when you have it toasting on a campfire? So that's what I did here, was I left the heat gun a little bit longer in certain spots so those peaks have those little burnt marshmallow looks. So sometimes that burnt, even if it's by accident, it works out to your benefit. So here it is with 3 marshmallows and that burnt look. So I'm going to leave that here. Another thing I like to do, so back to our little s'mores that we did, is a sentiment. And one thing I like to do is, you could leave your sentiment like this, but why not add a little bit more of that fluff on, since it's already out, and have it traced over your sentiment. So let's do that quickly. So the only thing about this is that trying to not go over the lines. And just going over, oh, I think it's time for a new bottle. And I just trace it, just small trace. It doesn't have to be so much because this does puff up a lot. Even if you don't put too much, it grows. And if I miss your comments, I will return back and answer them. So these are some easy techniques, and then I'll show you how I use it with glitter and embossing powder. And then I have some more that I want to show you, but let's just do this first. I'm so excited that you can tell I'm just rushing through this so I can get to the other stuff. I started with easy stuff and then with some more. So here is a sentiment. Hello for everyone that's joining me. And I forgot to trace the E, so I gotta do that now. But it's a good time, so where places you miss, like I missed the top here, and then I missed this whole E completely. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I'm just putting it lightly, because as you can see, I'm not putting a whole lot like I did for the other things, but look how much it puffs up, and it just gives that look of snow as well. So I'll just put that here so you can see it. So just with that raised look, it gives your card a little bit more. So it ties in, and it's a great way to make it look like snow also if you're just doing sentiments like Merry Christmas or Winter Wishes. Tracing and having that snow look is great. So another way I like to use it is, let's start mixing it up. So I have Merry Christmas die cut here. And one way I like to do, let me show you the sample I have, is mixing it up. Do I have a piece of white paper so you can see? So here's a sample of fluffy stuff, and I used Cosmic Shimmer Pixie Powder to create this. So I mixed the two together. That way I got some color, because you know fluffy stuff is all white, so using ink or an ink pad, I think any of the spray stains, just a little bit of ink can give you color. But I have a lot of Pixie powders and I want to try it, and it does give it a nice look, and I like how it's not pure gold, it's just like little sparkles everywhere. So let me make this one with you. So I have one here. I'm going to squeeze out my fluffy stuff. The more I say fluffy stuff, I'm getting tongue-tied here. And this goes a long way. Like I think I'm still pretty good, but there's a lot in there. So I did gold, but let's try another color. Let's do Aqua Lagoon. So it's like a blue. And with Pixie Powder, like its name, it's a powder that if you add water to it, it does nice sceneries. I'm just adding a few taps of this powder. And then I'm using a palette knife to mix it around. And you get this like nice soft blue, or the more white, you can have it more lighter. But let's do a nice blue, because then I can do a winter scene. I'm going to add more because the sentiment is big. So it's like a fun experiment of trying things that you have. The one thing I want to try is seeing if alcohol inks works with it. That's one thing I haven't tried out to see if it works. And so here is our Pixie Powder. So you can tell it's very blue, and I'll show you how to get those spots after. I'm using a tin foil so that way it's easier for me to clean up my mess. And what I did was I just scraped it over as if it was a stencil on top. So you want to make sure all your letters are covered. It's a nice blue. Usually, you know, traditional colors, red, green, but I thought this would be a nice card to add in a scenery photo. Oh, I'm not liking this Facebook, how all the comments disappear, so I have to keep pushing the button. So if you see my hand reaching, so I can keep turning on the comment bar so it doesn't disappear on me. Okay, so you can see I covered it a lot here. I'm going to take my tweezers. I will have to recover that end after. Oops. And okay, I'm just going to move it down. And then what I like to do is just sprinkle the powder on top so you get those concentrated areas with the blue. Well, that sentiment I did gold. And you don't want to push the Pixie Powder because then it's all gonna like gush out. So I just slow tap, some harder taps so I get in certain areas that I want a little bit darker. And then there. So let's show. And color is always nice too. So to have that there. And let me die cut this. Die cut it. Heat it up. I'm tongue-tied today. And so let me show you before I continue on. You can tell that it's starting to puff up in certain places, and then where I added more Pixie Powder, it's showing up more. So there, it's starting to come up. It does take a while because of the wording is so big. Let's see if I can get the E. But let's say this is too blue for you. You can always go in a little bit more with the white and do it on top, so then it looks like there's snow dripping down. But here is a sentiment. And of course, because of the way I spread it, see there, even the back has a little bit of fluffy stuff. So there's one sentiment. It's a little bit hot and sticky. I'm just gonna leave it aside to dry. Oh, one spot here. So let me leave this to dry. So that is pretty much a blue version of my gold version. And let me clean this up. Nice thing about this is that it's easy to clean because it only dries if you leave it too long or if you heat set it. So I find easy to clean. Just wipe it up a little bit. So next thing is that, well, sentiments. We can also jazz up. So this way I jazzed up with Pixie Powder, but what about embossing powder? And I know that was a question that was asked, I believe, with Alexis and Chris. So let me show you how it looks. So here's one that I did. I find the look is a little bit different once it settles and it's dried. So here is Season's Greeting. So the same one as this one, with fluffy stuff and gold embossing powder. So as you know, if you use gold embossing powder, it's very vibrant. The gold is metallic, but with fluffy stuff, it looks like it has like more of a shimmer with its raised parts. Not sure if you can see. Let me see if I can put it. Where's my paper? There. Oops. Trying to focus. There. So this is fluffy stuff mixed in with embossing powder. So I will show you that. And let's see if I can, what colors do I have here? Change it up so you can see. Why won't we do, I don't want to use white because, okay, let's try, I have pink in front of me. So let's do some pink. So same thing, I just squeeze a little bit. And what I did was I mixed in the embossing powder. Did I? No, sorry. What I did first, I should try both ways to see how it looks like, but what I did was I actually spread this over first. Might need more than that. As if I'm piecing, because it's hard to trace, I find, with this small one. You could always try and see if you can squeeze it out. But I just covered it. I'm just going to move it. And I just make sure every spot has like a little glaze on it, because then you know it's covered. It's hard to go over with fluffy stuff again without being too raised. So here it is. Oops, should have cleaned this because it has blue on it. Just wipe that quickly. And I ruined the Y. So here's Season's Greeting, as you can see. And what I did was I poured it as if you were using embossing powder. I poured it on. So whatever sticks, and I took off whatever doesn't stick. So I just did it like how you would do embossing powder. Ooh, this pink is pretty. And so cover it up. Just gonna put it here for a second. I'm gonna put this back. Because none of that fluffy stuff is dried, it's still liquidy, it doesn't damage the powder. I've been using it all weekend, so I know that my powder's still okay. It's not contaminated. Has no fluffy stuff bits. And let's dry that and I'll show you what it looks like. Whoops. Move that to the side. And so it has that tint of pink from the embossing powder, but it gives you, it looks like cotton candy if you look at this. Where's that white piece of paper? Looks like I just made cotton candy. It has that fluff with a tint of pink and a little bit of glaze. I have like a shadow, sorry about that. It's hard to see, but I will post pictures so then you can see it more. And I'll leave these at the store, so if you're ever at the store, you can see them up close and personal. But it's pretty cool with the embossing powder. It looks very different in the way of how we use embossing powder. So it's nice that if you mix it, you still get that tint of color. You don't get that shine of an embossing powder, but you get that fluffy stuff. So that's pretty cool. So here's my sentiment. It does look very snowy, so it's a great one to add. So another way I like to do it, so I'm just showing you ways that I use it and what has worked for me. Let's move this because I'll need this. And is doing a little bit of stenciling. So let me create a scene with you. And where's my cloud stencil? Here is my cloud stencil. So another way you can use it without using a paste spreader is if you have a sponge. And what I do is I just put some on my sponge. I know it's hard to see because it's at the bottom of my screen. But I'm just putting some of the fluffy stuff on my sponge. And I'm going to sponge the cloud. And it gives you a different look, but it's a really nice look. So I have this is the before and I have an after to show you. So I'm just sponging the fluffy stuff because you know, clouds are fluffy. And I'm just using a slimline cloud border. And even if it goes over, it's okay because it's clouds. Oh, you know what I forgot to do first? Okay, let me do this over. I forgot one step, is to put color so you can actually see the fluffy stuff. So let me put this aside. That was an epic fail. But first thing we have to do is add color so you can see it. So I'm just using leftover ink from my ink pad on my ink brushes. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to wipe that fluffy stuff I have on the table there so it doesn't get onto my brushes. Okay, so I'm just using leftover just to get a tint of blue because you really want that cloud to show. So whatever was on my brush, using leftover to create a blue sky. I find that if you have this look, it shows the clouds a lot better, but you know what? We could do it. So here's the one I did without the blue sky. I will set them both with the fluffy stuff, and then I'll put the ink on top of this one and see what it looks like. So let's leave this aside. Let's work on this one first. And let's do my clouds all over. And so once again, I put blue ink, just going to sponge some clouds on the sky. And I love making scenes, so I thought this was a great way to use fluffy stuff that's not snow related, but clouds. And this was Sherry's idea. She's like, it would look good for clouds. I'm like, oh, that is true. So I'm just sponging it a little bit, turning my stencil back and forth just so we have different clouds in different order. And it's okay if we overlap. So when you heat set this, you'll see those bumps, those cloud bumps, which is really nice. So let's do one more here and then I'll heat set it. So I'm just sponging and I'm going to wipe this right away so I don't put my hand in it. And I'm just using a baby wipe or even just wet towel. So let's heat set this quickly. I have to keep turning it on an angle or I can't see the snow, but see how, oops, it shows you a little bit of the fluffy stuff. Because we sponged it, it's a very thin layer, so it won't puff up as if we're doing like marshmallow like that, but it still gives you that raised texture to make it look like little clouds. Oh, it's still wet there, so I can go a little bit more there. So that was this way. Let me see how this one looks like if you inked it on top. Just want to make sure it's dry before I put my blending tool over it. So one more second. Because you can always use a sponge for some inking or use a brush and then wash it quickly. Let me see what ink pad. So I have, I'm gonna use water-based ink because that's the brushes I have in front of me. So let me just go lightly on top. So if you do it this way, your puffy stuff becomes a darker blue because of the raised part, which is also nice. So a different look. I only did 2 rows here, so I'll just bring it up. So this one, I did the fluffy stencil first and then I inked it. So all that puffy stuff is now in darker blue because that's the raised part. But if you did it the other way, you'll have more white because it's on top of the ink. But I thought it's pretty cool to get that cloud look. I know it's really hard because I have a shadow here, but it gives that realistic look of clouds and how puffy it is. So with this, what I did prior is I made a card with the clouds. So here I did the inking of the background a little bit lighter, and then I stenciled harder, sponged it with more fluffy stuff so you can see that there's more fluff than the one I just did now. Right here. And I use this little girl because she has the dancing feet. It's hard to dance her when you're on screen, but her feet dangles. But I thought, what a cool way to also put fluffy stuff on her Ugg boots. And before I do that, before I put little fluffs on her Ugg boots, let me show you how I did the snow hill with fluffy stuff and glitter. So another technique is using fluffy stuff with glitter. I had pieces already cut out. I thought I was prepared, but I lost that small sheet that I cut ready to go. Let's see. Anyways, I think it's 4 1/4. Let me cut that sheet off. So if you have a die, you can always die cut your little snowbank. I like to do a freehand one, so let me take my scissors and just do a quick snow hill. And what I find with this is that once you play with the fluffy stuff, there's so much you can do with it. So I showed you Pixie Powder. I showed you with Embossing Powder, and now some glitter. And I think glitter was a lot of fun because fluffy stuff acts like a glue too. So before it dries, if you have it nice and wet, you can add glitter. So I'm using my favorite glitter is the Lawn Fine glitter because they're so fine and it's so pretty. Let me clean off my palette knife so I can use it as a little spoon. So what I do, because I don't want this to be rubbed off, I just take it and I just pour it on top. And once again, the fluffy stuff doesn't come off because it's still wet, so it's acting like a glue. So I'm just pouring it and tapping it. I'm going to turn it around and do the same on this side. So here I added glitter. I wonder what chunky glitter is gonna look like. I'm really tongue-tied today. So let me cover this so it doesn't blow. And let me heat set this. And what I loved about this is that it has glitter plus the fluffy stuff, and it's amazing. I don't know if you can see it, but it's starting to rise. So here is my little snowbank with all that glitter. So it just gives it that highlight for your snow. So I think this one's dried, so I'll show you this one here. Just gives it a little bit of something. So since this can dry, let's just do her Ugg boots. And I'm gonna put lots of fluff on her Ugg boots here. And let me just heat this. I went overboard with the fluff, but oh my goodness, I love that. I was debating if I want to do this white, but I think I'm going to try after I'm done here, I'm going to try seeing if I can get a nice black and try to do that fluffy and black, but I'm loving this. Look at their little Ugg boots. Okay, I know we're getting close to the time, but I have a few more things I want to show you, and I promise you it's going to be a wow factor. So once again, that was our dancing girl. This is our dancing Nomi. So Nomi Dance is here too. And just to save time, but you can always, like, you know, puff up his gloves, his shoes, his little mustache here. I wouldn't do mustache and beard because then he'll look like a blob. So I think even if you just do his mustache, his little gloves, his shoes, that will look super cute. So I'll do that after I'm done here and I'll post that. And one thing I wanted to do is, oh, here's another example I didn't get to show. This was using red Pixie Powder. I was trying to see if I can get a dark red to make Santa, But of course, red and fluffy stuff makes pink. So we have a pink Santa Claus here. I need to add the face in a little bit more, but just to show you how Pixie Powder, now he's very fuzzy here. He's very fluffy, but that's using the lava red. So I might have to try a different ink to see if I can get that really nice dark red. So I'll let you know how it goes if I try alcohol inks. But the last thing I want to show you, oh, there's two things. I'm trying to debate which one. Okay, so if you tuned in last month, you know I went overboard with my little village. So this is the village collection. It's a bigger house compared to the other one. But I thought fluffy stuff would be amazing as snow on the top here. So I'm just going to do one-sided just to show you how this house will look more wintry with a little bit of snow. So even if you have like snow dripping from the chimney, but let's start off with, oh, I'm running low. Let's start off with here. So I'm just going to do sporadic lines here. And I'll probably go down a little bit further because you can probably make it look like icicles hanging down a little bit, not too far. But let me show you what fluffy stuff looks like on a top of a house here. So let me show you this. Oh, I'm liking this. I'll probably put the snow a little bit lower, but look at that detail that's on that rooftop. Like I know I used the paste last time and it's gorgeous as well, but this has this really nice texture. So we went from a blank house to a fluffy snow house, and I'll probably add more and put some more there. So you'll see this at the store too, so that way you can touch the fluffy stuff, but it's great for the village. Sherry's right, it's great for the village. So my last thing tonight is using fluffy stuff on acetate. So our store has the heat resistant acetate, and what I loved about it was to create scenes. That's what I love doing. So I wanted this a window. So this is what drew me into what I wanted to do tonight. So I have this window frame from a die set from Gina K, and I thought, what if there was snow on acetate that can show through? There are two ways to do it, but the way I did it, and you'll say, oh my goodness, but it's spreading underneath your stencil. But when you see it, it's amazing. So you can always sponge it, or you can use a palette knife. I'll probably use a palette knife to go a little faster. And let's see. So with the palette knife, I don't even know where my acetate is. Okay, it's somewhere under here. I'm just going to do half of it to make it look like there's snow on the glass. And at first, because it's very liquidy and I have to keep rubbing because not all the holes get covered, but I'm like, okay, it's running through the stencil. It's not going to look good, but I actually liked the look of it because it looked like there was frost on the windows. And I'll show you the sample I made after I do this one, because you'll see the before and you'll be like, what did Darlene just do? Like, that's not pleasing to look at. But then when you see the final thing, you'll be like, oh, it doesn't look as bad because it does look like there's frost on the window. So let me do this. And it did take a while because I can't see where the acetate is. I'm just guessing. It's probably all over the table. And I'll just do half a window. So let's just do that. And let me wipe this quickly. So if you're already looking, you'll be like, what does she just do? It's everywhere. Let me just clean this so it doesn't ruin my stencil. And for some reason, I couldn't find my snow stencil. I've been using it so much, I probably washed it and tucked it away somewhere. So I'm actually using a confetti stencil, which worked out. Because, you know, snow is not all the same size, but okay. So let me bring it up closer because you're going to laugh. So this is on acetate. And I use a stencil, but it does go underneath because of the slipperiness of this, and it's just falling through. So it does look like a hot mess. I have to put my tweezers on because it does get hot with the acetate. Let me heat this up. And the nice thing about this acetate is that it doesn't bend or curl. So this is what it looks like. But I think if you saw the final, you'd be like, oh, wow. So if you look at it, it expanded. And it looks like there's like a shadow from the fluff balls. So what I did was this, is I put it behind a panel. And of course I stamped a little couch there. Let's see if my thing will focus here for me. So I know there's a reflection, hard to see, but it looks like there's frost on the window. You know how when you have that frost from the snow, it kind of has that burst? That's what it reminds me of. So I actually like the outcome of it. So this heat resistant acetate, so Lawn Fawn makes it, as well as Creative Expressions. The one I'm using tonight is Creative Expressions, and is this one here, and it's great. I'm having so much fun with this heat resistant acetate, but I'm loving the fluffy stuff, and I could touch it because I did it on the outside. And then what I did with this was, as if you were making a shaker, you just tape them together underneath the window, and I actually puffed it up on top of this chair image here, just so it doesn't look like the snow is on the chair flat. But I really like this look. So there you have it. This is my take on fluffy stuff. And I hope within this whole month you've learned so much tips and tricks from Sherry, Chris, and Alexis and myself. And we hope you play with it. It is a lot of fun. There's so much you can do with it. And it's not as messy as you would think, like paste, but great way to play around with it, and so much you can create with it. So we've done so much. I will post it. We did marshmallows. We did our s'mores. We did a sentiment, well, a couple sentiments. We did, well, here was my Nomi. Now, what else did I have? I have my dancing girl there, my shopping spree girl, and then I will fluff him up, but I think he would be cute too. So lots of things tonight. And starting, well, this is our last week of October, so starting next week we have Chris first, and we are starting a new theme for the whole month, and it's on tags. And it's unbelievable what these ladies have thought of for the tags, and you'll be inspired to take out any of your tags, whether it's dies and punches or even just your cutter. We have so much in store for you. So tune in next Tuesday, same time, for our Learning Live at 8. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and we'll see you soon. Have a great night.